Ladies and gentlemen, you are highly welcome to the second series of readings from the radio and other stories as we revisit life in Nkambe in the late 90s and the early 2000s. The truth is that the saga of Jerome coincided with the advent of the 62nd Infantry Battalion of the Cameroonian Armed Forces in Nkambe that led to a seismic reconfiguration of social relations whose effects could only be captured through anecdotal and surreal narratives. Though some of the soldiers were men and women of good character, others, rather than reinforcing security, constituted a threat to the security of Nkambe. They were wont to generate brawls from scratch over any pretext. It was not uncommon in those days for a classmate or a teacher to come to school with a swollen cheek or a bandaged arm due to confrontations with the army. But the greatest casualties were moral and social. The rhythm and nightlife of Nkambe changed overnight, especially whenever the soldiers got their monthly salaries and whenever the successive squadrons returned from the Bakassi Peninsula. These returning soldiers seemed to suffer from a gargantuan thirst that made them to suck the whole town dry, not only of drinks, but of many other things. Brawls and fights became rampant in nightclubs, as those who had hitherto considered themselves movers and shakers in town now got a real match. One either made friends with the new lords or was bound to perish. If the sporadic skirmishes in Bakassi circulated amongst the students in the form of inflated narratives conveyed by the army fans on campus, many of you students were first-hand witnesses and victims of a war of another kind, not less real, not less nefarious. Given that many of the soldiers were from French-speaking parts of the country, communication was a problem, often kept to its basic and functional level. In those days, expressions like "come cook rice" or "come cook spaghetti." "Tu es marié?" "Non, je suis free." "Donne-moi l'eau à boire." And the response, "Bois-moi." This became catchphrases in town, describing the baiting tactics of the military men to waylay the young girls. The military had an edge over you, the students, with their 60,000 franc salary for the sangalong, those without echelons. The soldiers also had French, a romantic language, but also a language of commandement. When they wanted to terrorize anyone, the military used French, whether their victim understood it or not. It also happened that even an Anglophone military brother would turn and order the locals in French, both to impress and to cower them. To make matters worse, the camp was not far from the campus. The two were only separated by the teacher training college, a school of mainly post-high school adult students. But that was as weak a buffer as the French 1930s Maginot Line against an army that was after the sweet 13s of the green Nanga Hills. Many of your teachers, especially your history teacher, Mr. Ntumfon Matthew, alias Comrade, warned against the deadly pleasures of what he called bearded meat. and its effect on students' education. To no avail. The principal, as usual, was more pragmatic and told the students, be patient, obtain your GCE and after that, you can do it as much as you like. Well, the stick and the carrot were used. Many resisted. For others, the spirit was strong, but the flesh was weak. And even some of the holier-than-thou student preachers fell prey. In those days, it was not unusual to find a mate dozing during maths or history class. Some even came to class with bruised faces, traces of late-night military love. However, surprisingly, or perhaps logically, the French subject gained new converts. Some perpetual renegades started doing their homework with impressive consistency, thanks to their faithful backups and surrogates within the framework of "Come we stay." Such mates began speaking in coded language, and one only heard them talking of, in quote, "He came last night." And one needed not inquire about the he.